Okay, guys, get ready.
Hi, this is Rex. Welcome to Petanque Points Podcast, episode 28. Yes, 28. This time we get a weather report and more from Roger Maddern, direct from Dijon. Find out why there are no pointing competitions and a bit of terminology explained. We have the great umpire David Shaw demolishing trenches, and of course there will be a champagne fact and more. So sit back, pour a pastis or a glass of bubbles. Here we go. I was not aware that it was his anniversary, but I called PFA President Roger Maddern, who is also team manager of the World Triples Championship team, for an update on the situation in Dijon. By now, most of you will be aware of the results, but here is an insight in what it was like for the team while they were competing there.
Oh, the atmosphere is awesome. It's a big show, but it's a bit deflated at the moment because the French got knocked out by Madagascar. So,
oh, my goodness. Pat, is it true that there's no teams from Thailand?
No, Thailand couldn't get their military visas renewed. They had military people with their players, and they'd been in the country for some time, and the French government wouldn't allow their military visas to be renewed, which created a problem. So there's some internal disputes politically with Thai Petanque, but that wasn't the pure reason, but they certainly weren't here.
Oh, my goodness, right.
So it looks like Italy plays Tunisia to see who goes and plays Madagascar in the final.
And our team, were they playing the Swiss this morning?
Yeah, they won this morning and they finished third in the Nations Cup.
Wow.
Nations Cup's the second tier level, the top tier level and the second tier, and the way they rejigged the draw because of washout, a few other things and arrangements, we beat the UK, which was good, and then we got to play Mauritius and they beat us, but we still finished third.
Okay, so they've played that Mauritius game.
Yeah, they brought it forward on us, which is the way, with about 15 minutes notice, and we were playing on the same time that France was being beaten by Madagascar with a crowd of 5,000 cheering France on, and it was fairly awesome at times for the guys. There was the France-Madagascar game, and then there was us against Mauritius on the next set of lanes playing untimed games. So it was fairly noisy and hectic, and particularly since the French were being beaten, and quite soundly beaten in the end.
Now, did I understand they've had some sort of monsoonal rains there that have come through and flooded the piece?
They had heavy rain all morning, and what happened is that you had an outdoor marquee, and they had set up, it was on a car park area that they laid some gravel and bitumen type stuff on to hold it in together, and it was a low-level car park, and from one end to the other, it just, as the rain that just seeped in under the marquees, even though they endeavoured to heat the marquees, they were still pretty cold. It was a huge, big one that had a lot of lanes in it, and it just flooded us, but we just had to continue to play in it. And luckily, they moved the rest of our games to the indoor lane because they were having teams eliminated, so we got to play the rest of the games indoors, which was, much better than being in 4 degrees outside and water under your feet and whatever. And it was like playing on a car park at Chadstone.
Good grief. So that cold too, was it, Roger? I noticed in some of the photographs I've seen.
It was 0 degrees. I think the maximum yesterday was 5. And the wind chill factor quite often was high. But the guys were good. They adapted to it.
Excellent.
Rugged up. We prepared ourselves with some special winter uniform too, so that helped.
Excellent. So all round, everyone's pretty happy with that result, I guess.
We are. I think the right word to say is that we are a minnow. We are a small nation when it comes to what Petanque's about, particularly when you take on the Europeans, which are constantly playing consistent high-level games all the time. And they have a distance, but the tyranny of distance gets to us, particularly when we had 2 players based in Newcastle and 2 players in Melbourne. And the best opportunity, they trained separately. They played in as many tournaments together as they could up there. And there was an international tournament at Weird, which we bought
That's
the boys
right.
from Newcastle down on the Melbourne, and we got them together to play together, and they competed quite well here.
Yep.
We played in a tournament at Laval, which is in the region where Guillaume Ramon, the captain, lives at his hometown with in a big tournament there in an indoor stadium with 36 lanes.
Oh,
and,
okay, yeah.
We were competitive there, but it was good preparation, and we did 2 or 3 days of training there. We got to Dijon early and worked and trained together, and we had extra support coaching here from Eric Leconte, who's based in France and is an Australian qualified level coach, and was a good support for Michelle.
It sounds like the whole thing's gone like a really well-oiled machine.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. The Europeans tend to grumble a bit about what other nations do, and probably the French organised were, running it in a particular way. But it was a very big show. It was a production. They hired a production company to do the indoor stuff. There was a lot of lights and music and,
fantastic.
to make an event of it, which was fantastic for the guys to experience.
Yep.
And also 48 odd nations competing together from all over the world. To finish this morning, New Zealand beat us once, and we beat them on a return one, kept us alive quite well. And then against the UK, we come up and we were behind, but the boys really got themselves together and were determined to make a go of it. And we come away with that, which gave us a chance to play Mauritius. We all know, how good Mauritian players are, but we certainly made them work for it.
Oh, excellent. All right, Roger, look, I won't take up any more of your time. I know I've got you at a very inopportune moment. Please.
Oh, no. As I said, we're in the middle of a big shopping centre where they've set up one of the big restaurants here is a big catering restaurant, and they've been doing a great job of that. So,
wow.
Pulling it all together and being able to live stream it back to Australia as much as we could, even when so many French people were using their phones at one stage, the Wi-Fi blew out on us, so we had to go blow by blow on, but it was good, and the guys appreciated it. The support that was coming from Australia very much.
So I had a few reports that the signal was really poor, but that'd be the reason why.
Well, the reason we think, there was 4,000 odd, basically French people, and a good majority of them were on their phones.
Yep.
And the Wi-Fi we were monitoring just dropped off constantly, and we were just trying, because, we weren't using sophisticated equipment compared to what some of the big countries have.
But at least it was there.
It was there, and we updated the scores, and we knew people were up at very early in the morning or very late at night to support the team.
Yeah, indeed. Well, that's just fantastic. All right, look, I'll let you get back to the revelries then, Roger. And
oh no, we've got a presentation ceremony this afternoon where the guys get their medal, which they'll be very proud to wear, and the Australian flag was flown very well. We had a big support group of French families here in France,
right.
Which was really good.
Fantastic. Well, please pass on my regards to them.
I will.
That's really good news. I'm very, very pleased for everybody all around.
Okay, thank you. And thank you to everyone in Australia for their support from the Petanque community.
Fantastic, Roger. Take care. Thanks for your time.
See you later, Rex. Take care. Bye-bye.
What's the connection between a floor tile and a petanque carreau? In petanque, the word carreau refers to the perfect shot, when the thrown ball makes a direct hit on the target ball, knocking the target ball away and exactly taking its place. Outside of petanque, in everyday French, un carreau means a square. It can also be used to refer to square things, such as window panes and floor tiles. It can also, by extension, be used to refer to tiled floors and to floors in general. Laisser quelqu'un sur le carreau is to lay someone out on the floor, to deck him. So when you reste carreau, stay on the floor, you drop to the floor like a rock and you stay there, which is what a thrown petanque ball does when it makes a carreau. Carreau can also refer to the diamonds in a deck of cards, hence the name of the famous bronze boule from La Boule Intégrale, the AC, As de Carreau, or Ace of Diamonds. Hence also the name on the designs of Obu's old tattoo line of leisure boules, the card Carreau. There are shooting competitions, but are there pointing competitions? No, there isn't an FIPJ pointing competition. There are both practical and theoretical problems with a pointing competition. On the practical side, Pointing is different from shooting because successful pointing is heavily dependent on the playing surface, and the very fact of playing a bull changes the playing surface. Ensuring the consistency of the playing surface is virtually impossible. On the theoretical side, there are questions about what should count as successful pointing, how to score the competition, and the obstacles and events in the competition. Should there be different events for rolling, demi-lob and high lob, for left and right spin? Should we measure accuracy in hitting a donné or accuracy in getting near the jack or both? Should a bull in front score higher than the one in the back? How do you score a bull that pushes the jack back but ends up kissing it? Should promoting a bull be one of the events, etc., etc.? So let me know if you can work out a scoring system. I suppose it depends on what type of surface the lanes have at your club. At Camberwell, the club of which I'm a member, we have some lanes that can be quite thick in sandy gravel. As a result, we sometimes have train lines or tram tracks or trenches form by a rolling bull. Whatever you call them, I was told when I first joined, these could legally be filled in and evened out, even if they were even 20, 30 or more centimetres long. Recently, I was challenged by a member on that very issue. So what to do when all else fails? You go to He's Whose Word You Can Trust. I speak of none other than David Shaw, Level 4 Confederation umpire, previous chair of umpires, and now admin assistant to the chair. I enjoyed his company in this beautiful surrounds of his luxury studio, Jay Bolly. Well, sort of. Thank you for coming into the studio today, David. Really appreciate it. It's an honour for us, and I know with your time, that's a very difficult thing for you to fit in.
How could I not accept this invitation into your palatial surroundings, Rex?
Okay, sit back and enjoy that scotch I've poured you. I know it's only 9:30 in the morning, but I'm sure that'll just ease the nerves a little bit for you.
Top shelf next time, please, Rex.
David, I've had a query from one of the members of our club, and why it's probably more pertinent when I say our club. You may not recall, but piece in our club are many and varied, and on the back piece, or the northern piece, they are actually quite heavy in sand, depending on the humidity and the weather we've had and how much wetness there's been. Sometimes that's very hard to work, and one of the things that can happen is when a bull is thrown, it hits the ground, it might bounce, it might roll near or away from the cosh, but it will leave a track, a trench, a train line, a tram line. Now, when I first joined that club, I was told by an ex-umpire that it was quite okay to fill in that whole tram line, be it 20 centimetres or 30 centimetres long. Since then, I've been telling everybody that I know, yes, that's okay and that's the right thing to do. I've been queried by one of the members because she can't find anything in the rules that sort of covers it. That problem there, I think, lies in the definition of what a hole, divot, crater or whatever it might be. Can you clarify this for us at all, David?
Thank you, Rex. I can attempt to clarify it. I have given some notification of this curly one that you're throwing at me, oh spiky person. I have gone back and done some research, and I think one of the issues that's arisen, Rex, is that the rules have subtly changed in this area. So what may once have been true and correct and advised by umpires may no longer be the case.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I am concerned, in the matches that I officiate, filling in a hole means filling in a hole, not the entire track. So it is the hole made by the first impression of a bull that may be filled in, not the resulting trail.
Okay. From your understanding then, what I have said in recent times would seem not to be correct, so that we can't fill in that trench or that track. What if the track is only 6 inches long, which could be the same size as what a normal hole might be when a bull lands in it? Can I say, well, that's just a long hole, that's all?
As far as I'm concerned, look, filling in a hole it would be, if you reasonably construed that the overall impression before it went to a skinnier trail was just the crater of impact
Right.
with a little bit of smudging,
Yep.
that would be okay.
Right. Okay.
Now, the only time when umpires get particularly keen as to what you may be smoothing and the means by which you smooth things out would be if it's particularly in front of a bull that may be shot at.
Right.
Yep. Again, we could go into the subtleties, hard to judge at times, of the difference between filling in and restoring the ground
Yep.
in a hole made by a bull and then tamping it down and making it extra smooth and firm.
Mm-hmm. Well, my understanding there is you're not allowed to do that. You can return it to its original state. And by tamping it down, that's actually not in the spirit of what the ruling is. Is that right?
Kind of, and this is where it again becomes a difficult area because some grounds are extremely hard.
Yep.
And so the tamping down is doing nothing but restoring the surface to its original condition. But if it's a very soft
Yep.
ground, leaving a deep impression, as apparently some of your lanes are,
Yep.
then there's a difference between refilling the hole and then trying to make it harder than the surrounding area and the original area that it was. And it becomes a very hard thing to judge at times.
Sure.
In particular, remembering that your team gets to fill in one and one only hole.
Yep. And it doesn't have to be the last played hole because sometimes you don't know which is the last played
Correct.
hole.
It can be any hole previously made by a bull.
Yeah.
Tamping it down is one thing. For 2 or 3 members of the team to then walk back and forth between the line is possibly quite okay, but I have had some occasion to ask people to actually walk at the side because I regard what they're doing and the way they're gathering around and firming things has gone beyond my judgment of what is reasonable traffic on the lane.
Yeah, I think probably there's 2 things here. The first thing is, and I think you've made that more clear now, was the definition of what hole or a divot or a trail may be. The other point here is this is being viewed from, say, you as an umpire. We're playing at a club game, we don't have any umpires there, and these issues arise. Now, if there was an umpire there, the umpire goes up, checks out what the circumstances are and then makes a judgment or a reading on what he or she sees. But not having an umpire, we can get down to fisticuffs if we try really hard, saying this is a hole, this isn't a hole. That's what's prompted the query. Our member wanted to have a clear understanding of being able to say, no, the rules say you can't fill it in, the rules say you can fill it in. So with what you've said, I've got to go back to this member and apologise and say, look, what I've been telling you is changed slightly from what it might have been in the past.
Yes, sorry, Rex, and can I just say that I know that other umpires do listen to your podcast assiduously and are prepared to make comment, and there may be some disagreement with my understanding of the rules, but that's what I'm going with at the moment.
I really do appreciate that. And I'll give everyone your telephone number so they can ring and explain why you're wrong, if you like.
Thank you, Rex. They can always find me. I'm the one in the black and white stripy shirt.
Yeah, that's right. Well, David, look, thank you very much for answering that. I really do appreciate it, and I'm sure our listener will really appreciate that as well. And if it does cause some communications, that's terrific. I'd love to hear what people have to say, although I'm not going to get into any fights or anything like that. As you're aware, this podcast is purely about the betterment and the positive side of petanque, which is why we want to be able to make sure we know what we're talking about when we are on the playing surfaces. David, while I've got you there, it's a question I've been asking a number of people when we do the podcast. If you could, is there a rule that you would change or introduce or delete?
Oh, Rex, there are so many. I'm well known for being a strong critic of the construction of the rules and articles as they are laid out and have suggested a far more rigorous structure to the rules and not harder, not more complex, but a much better layout of structure. For us umpires, there are a number of issues, and for the players, there must be even more. But the one article or additional rule that's been introduced recently that I would change if I could is in the matter of playing a tied end in a timed game.
Yeah.
The rules now state that during the playing of that tied end, that in every case, the jack must be replaced regardless of a situation where only one team has balls left, the jack must be replaced in every situation, which is contrary to the normal rules, number one. And number two...
When you say replaced, David, you mean when it's been hit out of bounds?
Yep. During a normal end, in that situation, if only one team has ball, then they score that number of points. The tied end rules were recently introduced because they were not otherwise documented in the official set that came out from the FIPJP for some years, and Australia had introduced its time game rules, and they have been overridden by a set of rules that's handed down through the Oceania Confederation.
Okay.
And what they've said is that in every situation in that tied end, you must replace the jack, which is, as I said, contrary to what happens in the normal situation, and in fact prolongs the tied end in a time game rather than making it time efficient. So that's the one thing I would like to see changed.
Okay. Thank you very much for your comments on that, David.
And send all responses on this to Rex.
That's right. If our listener has any comments, the address to write to is audiorexy@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you all. Oh, David, something else has just come to mind. I recall at a previous meeting offline, we were talking about clubs and umpires. What were those thoughts?
I believe that all clubs should have at least a club level 1 umpire, and they should be there to meet and greet new players, and also occasionally to, just quietly remind people of the rules when you're playing in your social and your club and your practice games. Number one, for the new players, so that they're not given the rules as they were 6 or 7 years ago, but what are the current rules. For players that have been there quite a while, just to reinforce the habits, so that when you're playing your social and your practice matches, playing informally, people forget to mark the jack, and you don't bother. When it comes to playing a game which is controlled by an umpire, and you are not in the habit of marking the jack, even though you know you should, if you're not in the habit, you won't do it. And that's when you get gruntled umpires.
David, thank you once again for your time. I do appreciate it, and I really do. I know you're a very, very busy person, and to give up your time and to put your head on the chopping block like this every time I ask you questions is very, very brave of you and greatly appreciated. I do look forward to catching up with you, hopefully on the piece, and I'd love to have a game, particularly when the weather's like this.
Indeed. Thank you, Rex.
These are the players selected to represent Australia in the Trans-Tasman competition against New Zealand in Christchurch in March 2025. In the Open Women, we have Deb Rodder, He Jun Zhang, Selena Dali, Charlene Boudin, Yili Han and Elise Brady. The Open Men are Christopher Boudin, Cody Vucic, Guillaume Ramond, Jean-Luc Demerche, Jean-Luc Gonnet and Shane Howarth. 60-plus women, Debbie Coleman, Meji Labras, Rhonda Shears, Shirley Marshall and Catherine Eyre and Kerry Maddern. The 60-plus men are Brian Tuckfield, Christian Lucette, Glenn Bovell, Tim Shaw, oh, g'day Tim, Trevor Keeler and Neil Brown. Found a fantastic series of short training videos on YouTube by the world champion of Pétanque, Sylvain Dubreuil. These productions come under the Creative Commons license, so I'm able to give a sample on this platform. The series can be found in French, but there is a version with English voiceover. They are videos, and we are not. But here is a sample of what they sound like.
Hello, pointers. What's the right technique to point properly? You've got a minute to play your bull. So what I suggest you do is to use 30 seconds to analyze the terrain and then 30 seconds to perform the right movement. How do you use these 30 seconds to analyze? First of all, place yourself behind the jack, preferably squatting, to get a better view of the bumps and hollows that you mightn't have seen from the circle. Then, choose the landing spot you want to throw your bull to. To do that, come back to the circle, take the time to observe, and choose the right spot. I'm going to choose to send my bull here. Why? Because the surface is flat and with no pebbles. After that, what's the right technique to point? You're going to use a swinging technique, where the first swing will allow you to be straight and to take aim, and the back swing to get the power to throw the bull where you want. So, everyone has his method. That was mine. Choose yours correctly, and we'll go over a few points when we see each other again. See you soon, pointer friends.
Collarette is a sign of good champagne. The collarette, the bubble trains on the side of the glass, is a sign of good champagne. It indicates that the wine has been well made and is high quality. Smaller bubbles also mean that the champagne is smoother and more refined. It also means the glass may not be completely clean. Champagne is more bubbly in a flute than in a coupe. The flute is the best glass to use if you want to enjoy the full effect of champagne's bubbles. This is because the long, narrow shape of the glass helps to preserve the bubbles and keep them from escaping. Now that's a nice way to end the episode. Oh, I nearly forgot my latest dad joke. These are so popular. Here goes. What's the difference between a good joke and a bad joke? Timing. So, congratulate the Aussie team on their result when you see them. Let's hear more of those flat out on the floor hits. Send me your version of a scoring system for pointing competitions. And look out for train tracks and do enjoy a good bubbly glass of champagne. Rex out. Who listens right to the end?
You're a good player, Rex. Sick of Rex.